everyone, my name is Kat Savage and I'm a professional artist, clinical hypnotherapist and well-being expert working with those in the creative arts sector. In my line of work, I get to meet some amazing, colourful people, from actors to artists, people who live their lives by their own rules, fueled by passion and determination to bring their unique talents into the world. I wanted to discover what it took for people to leave the usual 9 to 5 and hop on a dream, to capture their bravest moments and share these meaningful conversations with you, so that together we can explore the ideas, emotions and moments that could potentially change our lives too. The Brave Moment podcast begins now, in the middle of the COVID pandemic, probably the bravest moment not only for my guests, but for the whole world. So let's keep talking, have some fun, and enjoy the show. This week on the show, I speak to international wildlife fine artist and photographer Richard Symonds. Richard's work has featured everywhere from Harrod's to Christie's and has been commissioned by the likes of Harley Davidson, the London Philharmonic Orchestra and the BBC. His work can be found in private and corporate collections worldwide, including New York, LA, Canada, Kenya, Botswana, South Africa, Russia, India, China, Hong Kong, and Europe. In 2006, Richard hit the headlines when he completed his first life-size oil painting of an African bull elephant called Tembo, which took him 500 hours to complete. With his sense of humour and generous heart in tow, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to one of the top wildlife artists in the world, Mr. Richard Symonds. Richard Symonds, welcome to the show.
Oh, Kat, hello. How exciting.
It is so exciting. I can't believe it's been a whole year since I last saw you.
No,
what have you been up to?
It wasn't. Was it really? Now you've scared me.
It really was.
Oh my gosh. Well, what have I been up to? A little thing called COVID-19 popped up, didn't it? And it's caused a little bit of chaos. But you know what? Funnily enough, I took a bit of time off, Kat.
Oh, really? What have you been doing in your chill time?
Photographing seals mainly, and just out and about with my camera a lot, just enjoying a bit of peaceful time away from this crazy world, because the world shut down. I thought, you know what, I'm going to shut down a bit here, and just enjoyed the beautiful world that we live in, and everything that's on our doorstep. Like I think a lot of people have, haven't they? They just reconnected with nature right outside their door. I'm
really, really happy to hear that you've been actually getting out and about, because so many people haven't had that luxury. What have you discovered about your natural world on your doorstep as a consequence?
I love the sea. I'm a sea person, and I have a tiny little rib that I whiz around in, and it's just going out in that, and I go and visit the seals not far from where I live, about an hour and a half away from here. And I know it sounds a bit strange, but I get in the water, giving them their space, and if they want to, they come up and visit me. And I've had one literally about a metre away from me, checking me out. And I call it my happy place. And it genuinely is one of those places where I smile from the first moment I arrive, and I smile when I leave, a few hours later. And it's just a great way to reconnect with nature and reconnect with yourself as well, actually, I think as well.
Oh, it sounds absolutely idyllic. Obviously where I live, I'm down in Cornwall. However, our relationship with seals are a little bit different in the fact that they tend to be a bit of a pest, in that they're kind of like sea dogs. Whenever you're in the sea, they're very, very confident, and the bulls in particular will come up and try and nibble your toes. Do you ever have that experience?
Do you know what? I wish. I've wanted to be nibbled by a seal for many years. I think I'll make my way out to Cornwall.
You're welcome anytime. Okay, so I'm going to put you back inside the house, I'm afraid. Sorry, Richard. And I'd like you to just describe the space that you're creating in at the moment. I know that you said you've been taking a bit of a break, but what can you see around you right now, and where do you consider your creative space in the house?
Well, I have this little conservatory bit that sticks out on the side of our dining room. I have a studio at my parents' place, but I don't go there much more because that's when I do the big paintings, which we might talk about later. So I tend to just do most of my work now in the conservatory bit on the dining room. And it's a nice, with art, you need a good light. Good light source, so it's got glass roof, so it's and diffused by some of these curtain things. So it's just a really nice, flat but decent light to work under. And it's nothing really very exciting, actually, thinking about it. I can't tell you anything exciting. It's just a corner that I create in. I wish I could tell you more.
I think we've all had to create those corners in our houses, haven't we, if we're in the creative arts industries?
Yes,
much to our partners' despair.
I know.
So
drives the family mild.
Oh my God, and especially because you've got children as well, haven't you? Are you getting on? Are you symbiotic in your relationships, or is there some frustration?
Well, I'll just quickly correct children. I have one, which was more than enough than I can handle, and I mean, she's female and she's nearly 13, and I think I'm entering the danger zone. So it's I think we'll talk about that one in about a couple of years' time, Kat, if that's all right.
Yep,
See
brilliant.
if I've survived.
Well, I think you're doing an excellent job right now, so all credit to you.
Trying. Thank you.
Talking of childhood, I'd like to take you back into your childhood.
It's a long time ago.
No, not that long. Can you remember, talking about spaces, your childhood room, and what were your favourite things in it? And did you have a favourite toy or something, for instance?
Oh, my goodness. Easy one to answer. Yeah, I lived in the coldest part of a house. There was often more ice on the inside of a window than there was on the outside of a window. I think it was the last radiator in the house, and that poor old boiler just couldn't pump the oil or the hot water down to the radiator. So I could see my breath in the morning. But do you know what? It's done me good. I think I walk around in a T-shirt in the middle of a winter now. I think it toughened me up. So yes, it was a chilly space. But my favourite toy would have had to be an aeroplane, Cat. I'm absolutely aircraft bonkers, mad on aeroplanes. And I had all sorts of radio controlled aeroplanes hanging from my ceiling and under the bed and all over the place. So definitely. Wow. My cold room full of aeroplanes.
Bleak yet satisfying.
Absolutely, yes. So much like my life.
Yeah, I can get. No, I'm kidding. So obviously you're into aeroplanes, and you had this really cold, dark room. Did you ever envisage that you would become an artist when you were a child, or was your heart set on something else?
Well, my heart was set on being an airline pilot. Actually, I have a little. It's not a joke. It's just this funny thing. When I was about 5 or 6, people used to go, "Oh, what are you going to do when you're going to be older?" My reply was, "I'm either going to be an airline pilot, Tarzan, or the Incredible Hulk." Now I'm 51 now. It was only last year that I think I've decided I probably quit on being the Incredible Hulk and Tarzan, but I would have liked to still be an airline pilot.
Well, you're never too old, Rich. You're never too old.
Yeah, although I'm doing Joe Wick, so maybe I'll make the Incredible Hulk in the end. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, you are crazy insane to be doing Joe Wicks, because it's quite hard. I've only tried it once or twice, and I was left huffing and puffing. So God knows what those children are doing out there. They're all going to end up as the Incredible Hulk.
Exactly.
That's really, really interesting. So did you ever pursue going into airline pilotry, or did you just go straight into art?
I did, Kat. I was flying target drones around the US and Egypt and Middle East. So I started out kind of flying in the military, doing target drones. Amazing job that was. At the age of 19, I think I started. And then I started training to be a pilot out there, getting my PPL. And then the job, basically, I was going to land up being a flight instructor, and then probably tugging gliders, and then building up my hours. You need a lot of hours to be an airline pilot. And then I never had the qualifications to just be taken on by British Airways. I'm a bit of a thickie. And so there's only 2 ways of doing it. You either get kind of sponsored by one of the big companies like British Airways, or you do it yourself, and it costs a lot of money, and then you have to spend the hours building it up. But that all came to a crashing halt.
What happened? Tell me.
Oh, Kat. Long and short, I was working in the US, and I was under a visa thing where you could work out there. And the company that I was dealing with was representing me out there. They mucked up my visa. They never actually renewed it. So I was an illegal immigrant. So when I left, a bit of a long story, but when I basically left the military job I was doing, I went to apply for a new visa. And they came and locked me up, arrested me, locked me up, put me in a prison for a week, detention centre, and kicked me out. Yeah.
You rebel.
Yeah, what a rebel. Absolute rebel with a cause. So
there's your movie right there. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. I mean, no, it was like one of the worst times of my life and one of the most interesting times. There's so many stories about a week in prison with about 60, 70 Mexicans and Colombian drug dealers. I could tell you, it was just unbelievable.
Oh my goodness.
21-year-old squeaky boy from Surrey with blonde hair.
I can only imagine.
Kat, I just tell you, I didn't drop my soap. That's all I'm telling you.
Oh my goodness. This is so taking a turn I didn't think it was going to. Oh, I feel like I know you just a little bit more intimately now, Rich.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kat. It's probably way too much information.
So you didn't drop your soap. You were in prison. What happened next? What happened when you got out?
Well, I mean, I did get out in the end. It was a week that felt like a year. And they deported me back to the UK. I mean, the whole thing was crazy. I'd signed the International Secrets Act. We were working on military missiles and air defense. I mean, I had so many secrets in my head, and yet they locked me up and deported me. It was ridiculous. The whole thing was absolutely ridiculous. In fact, the guys that arrested me just said, "This is ridiculous. I don't know why why we're arresting you, especially to be working over here for our military for 2 years."
Yeah.
So it was just an absolute cock-up of the biggest degree. But it doesn't matter. It happened. And but what the biggest downfall of the whole thing was I couldn't continue my training out there, which is where it's the best place to train is the US. It's cheap to do it out there, and they have the weather to do it. So yeah, my airline pilot dreams crashed, pardon the pun, crashed around me quite significantly. Yeah.
So at that point in your life, I mean, was art even on your radar? Or was that something that you sort of desperately used as a sort of therapy for what had happened?
Yeah, do you know, the art was something, as I said, I was never very academic. Okay, I was looking out of the windows as the teachers were screaming to me, to concentrate on my maths. And I was looking at the clouds thinking, oh, I could fly in that cloud. That's a nice cloud. Oh, look at the colour of that one. Oh, that's a nice cloud. And, and if somebody had told me if I'd have done my maths, I'd have become an airline pilot, I might have been a bit more interested in my algebra. But the long and short of it is that the only thing I was really good at school was art. I used to draw E.T. and superheroes and, believe it or not, The Incredible Hulk. And and I think it was just something I've always did. And we had a very good friend of my father's, who's one of the world's top wildlife artists, called David Shepard, who's a very well-known wildlife artist and conservationist. And he was a family friend, very close family friend, actually. And he was in and out of our house with his family all the time. And I was hugely inspired by David Shepard and his work and his lifestyle, more to point, and his conservation and animals and everything. So I think I was probably picking up vibes from him, or whatever you want to call it. This is a nice job in to do. And I think it was definitely David was my greatest inspiration.
Amazing. And I mean, obviously, if anybody out there doesn't know who David Shepard is, they can just Google him, can't they? And everything will come up, including the David Shepard Trust, which I know is a charity that you work strongly with, being that he's close with the family, etc., etc.
Yes. Yeah, so David Shepard Wildlife Foundation. It's actually only a mile away from where I live as well. It's a head office down here. I don't do much of them these days. I think it's just, I will come to that later. I've ploughed my efforts into a couple more charities, just because they're a little bit closer to heart possibly these days. But I've done a lot with the Shepard Foundation over the years, and they're a fantastic organisation, and definitely go and check them out. They're really good, really good.
So here you are, you're fresh out of prison, you're back in the UK, you're thinking, what do I do with my life? I know, I'll maybe pursue some art. How did your family react to this whole situation? And were they encouraging, or what happened?
Kat, my poor parents. I mean, there's not many people who get a phone call on New Year's Eve saying, "Dad," yes, son, Dad, I'm in prison, Dad. My poor old parents. I put them. I'm a bit of a black sheep of the family, and I've definitely put them through the mill over the years. There's no question about it. I did. I was just literally thinking. I came back, as I said, I was thinking, what am I going to do now? I can't pursue my career of flying, not commercially anyway. What am I going to do? And the only thing I can do is draw. And I met this girl kind of around that time. I was a little bit into music as well then, starting out in my first band, very exciting. And one of the backing singers and I got together, and her family knew I drew, and her neighbour said, "Richard, would you be able to draw my dog. Actually, it was a dog, yes. And I said, yeah, I can draw your dog. And they said, well, how much would it cost? And I was like, oh, I don't know, 50 quid or something. She said, that's fine. So I did this drawing of this dog for 50 quid. And dare I say it, then the other neighbour said, oh, I've got a cat. Could you do my cat? And I said, yeah, I'll do your cat. How much? I said, 55 quid. They said, yeah, perfect. And then another dog came along. How much? I said, 60 quid. And then, I just kind of landed up just drawing cats and dogs. I suppose my art career started from that very first drawing of my girlfriend's neighbour's dog. Definitely, yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's so lovely. That's so organic and raw and natural. I love it.
Yes,
but I know that's not the only thing that you did draw initially, wasn't it? Because I know that you've worked with some motorcycle brands and things like that.
Yes, that's right. So after the I suppose doing the cats and dogs and things, I don't know how it happened. I got a phone call from this company. I know exactly how it happened now. I've remembered the cat. A friend of mine was working for Harley Davidson, and they wanted to do up in London, one of the big stores up there. Anyway, they said, would I be able to design and do a T-shirt for them? So I did, and I did that T-shirt. And the company that printed the T-shirt actually happened to be Larry McMullen, who's the drummer from U2. He owns all of the rights to the Harley Davidson merchandise, and this company saw my drawing that I'd done and said, crikey, could you do some drawings for us and design some Harley Davidson T-shirts? And I was like, yeah. Hello. It's not a dog. It's not a cat. I'm very excited. I like motorbikes. Bit of metal. And I started doing those. I did, I think, 4 designs for them in the end. So that was quite exciting. And that kind of went off in a slightly different tangent to the animals. I think, if you can draw something, you can draw anything. I kind of think that's how I feel. I don't want to be boxed in an area. I can only do cats and dogs.
Oh, I love it. I love that your skill is so diverse as well, and that you aren't pinned in by one particular thing. Although you do obviously now work specifically quite a lot with wildlife, which we'll talk about later. When you're drawing, what exactly is it that you're trying to capture? Because I'm always fascinated by what people are trying to convey through their drawing.
Well, if it's an animal, which is, I suppose, 95% of what I do, the greatest compliment I think anybody can have is when they just say, oh my God, it looks so real, or I can feel the soul in it, or I can look into the eyes and I can feel something. If it's moving somebody, then that's the greatest compliment I can have, because I think there's so many artists out there that do draw animals and they do them very well, but they're quite stiff. They're lacking a little bit of life to it. And it's not always about what you put in. It's sometimes about what you don't put in, what you leave out. And I think that's the same with music, isn't it? You're obviously extremely musical. I think sometimes you can overdo it. And I think it's the same with art. Sometimes you don't need to go for the every whisker, every hair look. I'm not into that. I put an amount in that it looks realistic, but then there's something you leave out to leave that mystery, leave that. You want to come back to it and think, something, what is it about this picture that I like? And you want the viewer to keep coming back to it, not just look at it and say, oh yeah, I can see every single hair. Oh yeah, it's a cat, or it's a lion, or it's an elephant. You want to come back and say, oh, there's something mysterious about this. It's created a mood, or what's the cat thinking? What's the elephant going to do next? I think if you can portray that in a picture, then I think you've done your job properly as an artist.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And when I do look at your pictures, they're so alive. And I think that's the thing that makes them so captivating is I feel like I'm in the room with a tiger, for instance, or a bear or whatever. And I can remember actually when we were in Vietnam and we were working with Animals Asia, and we were trying to all come up with, when someone looks at a bear, what is it that they want to see? Because especially with Animals Asia, they work with moon bears. Their features are quite small compared to the bigness of their bodies. And you said it's all about the eyes, and that's absolutely stuck with me. And I think you made everyone cry when you came up with that sentence. What is it that you mean by that?
It doesn't matter what animal it is, even down to I know it's like an octopus or a fish. When you look, we all have eyes. We all share those sensory things. That's something we all share. Our bodies are all different and they work in different ways, whether you're aquatic or mammalian or whatever. But the eyes, when you look into the eyes, you see that wet, watery, shiny. I can't explain it. It's just. you can see an eye when it's sad. You can see an eye when it's happy. You can see when it's distressed. There's something about an eye that connects with all us, as I said, because we've all got them. And it tells, they say eyes are the windows to the soul, isn't it? And I think it's very true. And I think it's just a really, really important part. Certainly when I draw something, if I'm doing eyes, I want to get it absolutely bang on, because that's the bit that people look at and then connect with an emotion in an animal. I think that's what I mean.
I get you.
Do you get me, Kat?
I get you, man.
Do you get me?
I get you.
Oh, I hope so.
I'm just so fascinated by it, because obviously you've just said, sometimes it's about leaving things out. Sometimes it's about trying to figure out what the animal's thinking. And then you've got that layer of obviously conveying that through the eyes. I mean, how do you even do that? What's your process? Do you have to think about the muscles around the eyes? Do you have to convey that emotion purely through the eyes and sort of build around it? What's the process?
I'm a great advocate that, I go and take pretty much all my own photos, which means I've seen the animal. So I've been in that environment with the animal. Let's just say an African elephant. I've followed one for an hour or two, or we've been in the presence of one, and you've been watching it. You've been watching its emotions. You've been watching how it reacts with you being around it, how it reacts with you not around it. It's one of those things you just pick up. You become very observant as an artist, and you look at everything all the time. In fact, you never stop looking at stuff. You look, and you observe and you study. And that's what I do when I'm out with the wild animals as best as I can. I just get as close as I'm allowed to without being, too close, to distress them. It's something you've always got to give them their space, but you need to live, breathe, and feel their environment. And then you'll get into, I think, and it sounds a bit heavy, but you'll get into the soul of that animal. If you've been to the moon bears, when you've heard them and smelt them, you can smell them and you can nearly touch them. We're not allowed to, but you know that fur is thick and wiry, and you can look into their eyes and you can see the little twitches on their nose. And when you've seen that, then you can rush back home to paper and portray all of those things that you've seen. Although you're doing it from photographs, at least you've seen it with your own eyes, and you can portray it on that piece of paper or canvas.
That's unbelievable. Just hearing you talking about it, I can almost smell and breathe those animals that you're talking about. It makes me really, really excited to know that this is part of the journey that you take in order to create your amazing art. Do you find that, you say you rush home and you put you start to draw the animal. Do you find that you have sort of like an alien hand syndrome sort of take over what you're doing? Or is there a structure to it? Do you go, right, okay, I'm going to start in this way?
Yeah, I think when it's been on I haven't been to Africa for so many years now because of this blooming thing, and a little bit of time before that I didn't go. But yeah, I rush back with always thousands of photographs, and I often can remember a day that was a good day. I think, oh my God, I think I got a good picture on that day. So I can often whiz straight to that day or that photograph and pick through the first few that I think, that's going to make a nice picture. I remember the lighting was good. I remember the dust, it was being kicked over, by the trunk or whatever it is. So yeah, I get back into that kind of mode, like I was there again. And if something really moves me, I'll say, I'm going to do this one now. And I grab that photograph, and then I start the whole process of drawing it up, scaling it up and everything, and just cracking on with it because it's fresh in my mind as well. So yeah, it's quite often quite a manic time coming back from a safari. It's like, don't talk to me, I'm busy. I'm like, oh. And you just kind of just get really, really engrossed in it. I think that's the word, engrossed. Just taken away with it all. That
flow state of just being in that frenzy. I know that frenzy well. It's really important to stay in it, isn't it? And also to access it at that time, because if you leave it, even if you just leave it for like a week or something like that, it never quite feels the same, does it?
No, it doesn't. No. It doesn't. They say there's no time like the present. And I think that's very true. Just seize the moment and go for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So whilst you're in this frenzy and you're putting everything down, when do you know when it's time to put down the brush or put down the pencil and walk away? Because there is such a fine line, isn't it, between being finished and being overly done?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Kat. I think it's a very, very important question to look at as any artist. I think there's a point where you can, as I said maybe before, like you can overdo it, like the music thing again. We were saying, at what point do you don't put stuff in, you leave out? And I think, you have a mind sight of where you're going with it. obviously. And then it's a whole process. It could take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to create something. And you've gone from a blank canvas to this, suddenly everything is very complicated potentially and full of color and shapes and textures and everything. And I think often if you're just getting to a stage where you're not quite sure where you're painting, your paintbrush is 1 minute over here and then it shoots over there and it shoots over here, and you're at this stage and you're thinking, oh crikey, I'm painting over something I did a moment ago, now I'm back over here, then you're probably at the stage where you're thinking, hang on, I should probably stop here. and what I do in that stage is I literally will stop, put it away for maybe a week, just put it in a room I have here, let it dry if it's an oil painting, for example, and then come back with it a week later, put it on the easel, stand back, open your eyes, and bang, just look at it. And if nothing stands out as being, oh, that's not quite right, and you look at it and think, that looks good, I'm happy with that, then leave it, sign it, get rid of it.
You heard it here first, artists out there.
yeah. And I think that's the point where, if you start fiddling around with it again, then maybe you're going to start to deteriorate it and it might start to lose that freshness.
So when was that moment that you thought to yourself, wow, this is what I do for a living? Can you remember that sort of transition between whatever it was that you were doing before to, oh my goodness, this is it. This is what I'm doing for my life. Yeah.
First trip to Africa, Kenya, 1995 or 96, 95. Went to Kenya. Absolutely no money. I have no idea how I got out there. I still to this day don't know how I did it. So many stories about that. It would take about 5 hours to talk about the stories I had going to Kenya. It was one disaster after another, but something out of the disasters always came some magic. I landed up in Masai Mara, basically, in a borrowed Land Rover that I had to rebuild because it was all broken and falling apart. And I somehow managed to rebuild it and drive 6-7 hours across like a desert to get to Masai Mara. And it's such a long story. I wouldn't even bore you with it, but I managed to spend 2 weeks in the Masai Mara photographing elephants and the lions and the cheetahs and the leopards and the rhinos and all that stuff. And it was just a pinch yourself moment, and I just couldn't believe it. It was something seen out of Africa, and it was just like, just remember thinking, oh gosh, I've got to go home now and paint and draw all of this stuff that I photographed. And just remember thinking, I was just so excited about the whole thing. I'd made it, I was in Africa eventually, and I was going to be a wildlife artist. It was my 100% goal and aim. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. Very determined. So here you are, you're out in Africa, you're having this incredible time. You come home and you think, oh my goodness, now everything has begun. Can you take us through some of your career highlights? What have been some of the massive highs that you've been a part of? Yeah, well, I think, leading from this trip, the first thing I did was created about 30, 40 paintings and drawings. And I have to say, I wasn't a very good photographer in those days. I did come back thinking, oh, is that the best photograph I've got? Oh dear, that's not very good. Uh-oh, that's pretty awful. And it was actually a little bit of a disaster looking back at the photographs. I don't know how I did it, but I managed to pull together 40 paintings, about 40, 45. Then the next thing was my first exhibition, believe it or not, I got straight into Harrod's. They gave me space at Harrod's in London. And I had a one-man exhibition. I managed to get in touch with Virginia McKenna. It was back in 1997 when I did the exhibition. I did a painting for the Born Free Foundation in Virginia, and I did a painting for the David Shepard Foundation because David Shepard opened the exhibition as well. So I had both my idol, David Shepard, and Virginia McKenna at my first exhibition. And it was just fantastic. It was absolutely amazing. And Virginia and I have kept in touch ever since. She's opened about 6 or 7 of my exhibitions. Dear old David's passed away now. But yeah, it's just been, those moments when you have those legends opening your exhibition and talking about your art and what it means to them and moves them and everything was a pinch yourself moment, in the biggest gallery in London, really, at the time. That was quite a high.
I can't even imagine what that must have felt like, just to be sort of manifesting your absolute dream before your eyes. So do you feel like you were giddy? I can't even imagine what I would feel like in that moment.
It's a really strange thing, and always there were lots of celebrities there as well, and I can't remember their names, but all sorts of famous faces and stuff. And I remember just thinking, are they here because of me? And I was still wet behind my ears, really. I was only 26 or something, or 27 years old. I was very young still, I think people think of having an exhibition, there'll be a kind of maybe, well, like I am now, a 50, 60-year-old or something in the room, who's travelled the world and all this vast experience. They're all there to come and see this little squeaky clean guy, at the age of 27, with his first exhibition. And I don't know, it was all a bit of a bizarre moment, I have to be honest. It was all very strange. But I go with things like that. I'm like, okay, I'll take this. This is nice.
It's incredible. I love your story because it's such a dream-like story for, and one that all artists have that ambition for. But I think, what you said about being absolutely determined is such a sort of defining factor in how you become a success within this world, which is, incredibly challenging. But what do you think, obviously at that age, you probably were starting to find your style, etc. But what do you think these people saw in your art? What do you think they thought set you apart? What were they saying to you at the time?
I'd hate to think what they thought. Actually, I don't know. They sold. I don't think I sold all of them by any means, but I certainly sold quite a few. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know. It's all a bit of a blur, really. It seems so long ago now. I can hardly remember what happened yesterday. So.
I think we're all a bit like that right now, aren't we?
Yeah, for lockdown memory loss, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So obviously you've gone from that point in your life and you've had a plethora of great successes, but one that I'm particularly interested in is when you decided to create a life-size elephant portrait. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, I will, Kat, because that's one of my proudest moments, I think. That would have been, oh my gosh, I'm so terrible with dates. I'm really sorry, but it must have been 15 years ago, whatever that is in old money. I suppose I was starting to get reasonably well known within the field of wildlife art. So there's a handful of wildlife artists around, and I think I was in that handful, if I could put it that way. Certainly not the best or least known or most known, but just a kind of, it was a bit of a, as I say, a handful of wildlife artists that were kind of emerging through that period, and I was kind of in there. But what I wanted to do something that maybe, just put me out, not above everybody. I don't mean in a way of, oh, I'm better than everybody else, but just to pull me away from that pack and do something unique that hasn't been done before as a first. Because I think if you can be the first at something, then you can take that title and say, well, I did that. It was the first thing I did. And it's not an ego thing. It was just a way of thinking, I just need to find my niche, something that's different. And I'd done a life-size tiger for the David Shepard Foundation, funnily enough, and we'd auctioned it at Christie's. It had an enormous response, and actually some quite exciting things happened from the back of that tiger. I thought, right, well, the best thing to do is a life-size elephant. No one's ever done one before, and now I know why. I thought, it's the ultimate thing. If you're going to draw a life-size animal, which I was starting to do life-size animals, I was thinking, I'm going to do an elephant. I'm going to be the first. Nobody else had done it. So I did. I thought, well, I'm going to do it in pencil. Well, that was a disaster because no one makes paper big enough. So I went all around the world looking for a piece of paper big enough, and I thought, no, you know what, it's going to be a nightmare. So let's paint it. Let's do an oil painting. So I got the canvas, which you can find at that size, about 15 foot by 11, 12 feet wide or something from memory. Huge canvas. I made it myself. I made it in an aircraft hangar, and I drew up the elephant to scale, had to be to scale. And this was an elephant that I'd been out to Africa and photographed. He was another long story, but he was a tame-ish elephant, and I could get really close to him and measure his tusks and his all sorts of things. It was really exciting. I had a tape measure measuring an elephant, so I could get the proportions absolutely correct. I did. I put it all up onto the canvas, and then I painted it for 500 hours in a big warehouse. It was so much fun. It was just, you can really, when you're doing a life-size elephant, you just go for it. There's no holding back. There's none of this trying to scale everything down and make it look realistic. I just went for it. Bang, well, there's a tusk, that's 1.5 meters long. Let's just go for it. Bush. And then when I finished it, I thought, right, well, I've got to try and find a way of getting some publicity for it, and hopefully trying to do something good with it, maybe raise some money for the real elephants. So I contacted my friend, Virginia McKenna. She came and looked at it, and she was nicely taken aback by it and thought, oh my goodness, Richard, wow, we can do something with this. And I said, okay. So she handed me over to their PR team, and they went to work. It's one thing, Born Free are very good. They're very PR-y based. They have lots of connections and everything. And they were doing a huge conference on elephants at the Royal Geographical Society in London. And they had the big auditorium there, and they had all sorts of people from Kenya and a head of Land Rover, and they were all talking at this big conference about elephants. And they wanted my elephant in the foyer there as the big entrance as you walked in and saw the life-size elephant, the photo shoots and all of this stuff. And that's what we did. So they got it in there, and then the press got hold of it, and then it was on all the front pages of the Telegraph, the Times. It got onto News Round on television. I was doing radio interviews here, there, and everywhere. And it just is all pre-social media time. So there was nothing like Facebook and Instagram. So it went viral around the world. It got onto Kenya Airways magazines. We did a photo shoot in Heathrow Airport. They closed down this whole part of Heathrow Airport. They got one of the aeroplanes, this huge airplane with Kenya Airways, Land Rover, and my painting on the airfield, and took photographs for the newspapers. I mean, it was bonkers, absolutely bonkers, the whole thing. But the long and short of it is that we got a phone call from a guy, and he wanted to buy it, and he did buy it. And I was able to give, I think, 30% of the sale, 35%, maybe a bit more because of a tax aid they were doing at the time, to the wild elephants. So that was a really nice thing to do as well.
I'm just listening to you talking about it. I'm utterly speechless, and I know that we've talked about this previously, when we've met. But it's just hearing the whole story of it. It's insane.
It's a mental thing.
Yeah. Has anything come close to that moment since?
You see, and then what happens, you see, I got another phone call. I'm sorry, Kat, it sounds like I'm name dropping. And yes, I probably am.
Name drop, go on, do it.
But I did. So I got this phone call from another charity called Elephant Family. And they said, Richard, our CEO would like to meet you. He'd like you to do a painting of his elephant. I said, his elephant? He goes, yeah. And it was Mark Shand, as in Camilla Parker Bowles' brother, who's an interesting character. He's sadly passed away as well. But I ended up painting an elephant that he rescued in India. It was basically on death's door, this elephant called Tara. And he rode it on its back 1,000 miles across India to a sanctuary where Tara, I think, is still alive and pampered like a princess to her till the end of her time. And he wrote a book on it called Travels on My Elephant. It's an interest. I've never read the book, funny enough. I'm not a good reader, but it's something I should read. And I did this painting of Tara for him. And I believe that His Royal Highness Prince Charles and Camilla have it in there. I think they own it now, I think, because obviously Mark passed away, and I have a feeling it's there. I'm not sure on that. It might not be true, but yeah. So, that was my second big elephant I did. And the worst thing is, I actually painted that one in my house.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Oh, my, how on earth did you manage to do that?
Oh, my goodness, Kat. You actually were in the room. When we were doing our last interview, we were in the room. It's got a very high ceiling, and it just fitted in here.
Crikey.
And it was half the room. Yeah, I managed to paint it in here somehow. I don't know how I did it. I really don't know how I did it. It's stupid.
You must have had months of fumes going through your house.
Yes. It did. It literally smelled like an oil paint factory in here for a while. It really did. It was hilarious. So it was an Indian elephant in our house.
Wow. Oh, it's just incredible what you're capable of doing. I mean, I can barely draw on an A4 piece of paper, let alone,
Oh, that's not true. I've seen your lovely drawing. Take that back, Kat Savage. I've seen your drawings. They're lovely. It's your moon bears.
Oh, bless you.
Lovely.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so here you are with this incredible success and originality for doing such life-size, crazy paintings.
Crazy.
But what do you consider to be your biggest challenges?
What now?
Yeah.
Or just trying to be a decent dad. I don't know. I told you I've got a teenage daughter coming. I think that's going to be my biggest challenge. But if we're not talking about personal stuff, then work challenges. Trying to keep original, not get stale in what you do, try and keep some originality, keep being a bit innovative at times. I change my style a bit sometimes. I do these white on black drawings where it's just white chalk or white pencil on a black card, keep it quite contrasty. I don't know, I'm quite happy to experiment with art. So I'll do watercolors sometimes, I'll do oil paintings, I'll do pencil drawings, colored pencils, sometimes pastels. So I'm quite happy to flick around what suits the subject maybe best.
Okay.
So yeah.
So just trying to keep your mind stimulated as opposed to sort of letting anything else bombard you with stuff. Okay.
Yeah, as they say, variety is a spice of life, and I like to be extra spicy or something.
It's going down that road again, Richard.
It is. I'm very sorry. It's not quite the bar of soap story, is it?
Anyway, moving swiftly on. Was there ever a point where you thought about quitting? Or, was there ever a point where you thought, I want to go back to flying planes? Tell us about that.
I think it's normal to do that. I think anyone who's in the arts, whether you're a writer or actor, or there must be times when maybe it's a bit quiet or you're a bit of self-doubt coming in. Maybe, I think it's natural to have those moments. And I think those are the moments that you probably stop for a while and have a little rethink. And do you know what I do? Do you know what I do when I have moments like that?
Tell me.
Seriously, do you know what I do? I jump in my car and I drive onto the M25 at 7:30 in the morning. I sit in a traffic jam and I think, if this is me going to an office job, forget it, I'll be an artist.
So a bit of method acting with life.
Absolutely, I love it. Absolutely. You look at all those poor guys. I'm sorry if anybody who's listening to this does it. I have such admiration for you. I just, to sit in a traffic jam for me is the biggest waste of life. I get very grumpy after about 5 seconds in a traffic jam. So, I just do that, and that makes me think, I've got a pretty good job. Shut up, get on with it, and carry on. Stop feeling sorry for yourself.
That's such a brilliant top tip. I'm so taking that on board next time I feel like giving it all up. That's brilliant.
Oh, brilliant.
Do you find, because obviously you are a busy creative, how does that affect your personal life?
I try not to mix the two, I think. I take my job as I say 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I don't bring it in on the weekends. I'm terribly restless at weekends. I need to go out and spend time in nature and do all these stupid things that I like to do. So I very much separate the two, Kat. I don't bring it really into anything else in my life, apart probably for every time we go anywhere and say, oh God, look at that sunset, isn't that lovely? Oh God, look at that tree, isn't that a beautiful tree? Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, look at that animal. Oh, isn't that, and I think my family thinking, oh, for God's sake, I'm just like, So, but I think that's the only time I do get a bit enthusiastic about things, but I don't think there's anything bad in that, is there? I think it's nice to be enthusiastic. I think it's a good thing to be enthusiastic.
Do you think that enthusiasm for art and nature has rubbed off on your daughter, or is she complete opposite? Is she like, no, I don't want to be anything like my dad?
Poor kid. You know what? You'd have to ask her that question. You'd just get a grunt.
So I want to ask a few random questions. If someone painted a portrait of you, how would it look in terms of like your clothes, the background, your pose, etc.? And what else would be in the painting with you?
Oh, cat. Scruffy, unshaven, slightly balding. I would like to think, because I have been working out an awful lot recently. I've been doing loads of exercise. I would like to think there'd be a six-pack on
there.
Just to feed my ego.
Nice, I like it.
Or probably my dog sitting next to me.
Okay, so that leads me on to what's the closest thing to magic in real life?
Oh, gosh. I just, nature. Nature's magic. I mean, you just walk outside now and all the snowdrops are coming up and the daffodils are about to go pop in a minute. Just looking at nature is magic. I look at it every day and I just think, how's it possible? Or you see an amazing sunset and you just think, wow, And it's, it's the thing is with magic, it's all an illusion. It's not real, is it? Whereas you look at nature and it is magic. It's real. it's proper magic. And I just look at nature, I think, Kat, every day, and it just blows my mind. Totally blows my mind.
So on board with you with that one, and it's one of those things that when I have a friend who's gone through a really rough time and they go into that sort of self-discovery space and they try all the different fractions of what self-discovery means. It's something I always refer back to them. I'm like, just go outside. It will blow your mind. You'll feel super humble, and everything else won't matter. So I absolutely agree with you there. Brilliant. Good answer. Okay.
Did I get 10 out of 10?
You did, yeah, in the trick question department, of course. What's the most interesting thing you've read or seen recently?
Most interesting thing I've seen recently? I can tell you that quite quickly. I went to photograph a kingfisher called Kevin. It's called Kevin the Kingfisher. I love photography. I love photographing, and that's why it gets me outdoors in nature, and I enjoy every second of it. And there's this amazing kingfisher not far from where we live. Kingfishers, as you might know, are very, very difficult birds to photograph. They're very elusive, very fast, very difficult to see, as in, not see, they're blue and you go, but this little guy is so tame. He lands about 5 meters away from you, and he sits on a branch and he stares at you, and he just goes about his day. And I have a massive, great lens, and I'm like photographing into his eyeballs. And it's just, he's just amazing. Kevin the Kingfisher. There you are.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I've always wanted to see a kingfisher in real life. I've never had the chance yet.
Well, come and meet Kevin one day. When you're allowed to travel, come and meet Kevin. I'll show you Kevin.
I will absolutely hold you to that. Okay, so if you could meet your 100-year-old self, what do you think he'd say to you?
Don't do it.
Do you know how many times I've heard that come out of people's mouths?
I know. A 100-year-old, I would say, well done, lad. You made it this far. What would I say to myself?
What do you think what do you think he'd say to you about your life now? What advice do you think he would give you?
Keep trying. I think anything you can do in life is just keep trying. You make monumental cock-ups along the way. We all do. We're human beings. I'm never one to think that I've got life sorted. I've made some terrible mistakes along the way, and I still make mistakes. But I think, you know what? Follow your heart. Keep believing in who you are. Try not to hurt too many people along the way. I think just try and be a decent person. Try and not think of yourself all the time. Maybe.
That's a wonderful, wonderful answer. I love it. Okay, so we're coming to the end of this interview. Sadly. I'm so glad it's recorded this time, though, however. So I have to ask you, what do you consider to be your bravest moment? And that could be something physical, mental, spiritual. It could be something to do with your work. It could be something outside of your work. What do you consider to be one of your bravest moments so far?
God, why do you have to hit me the hardest one right at the end where I'm just kind of, have I ever been brave? Oh, gosh. I think what comes to my mind first, probably just having some belief in what I do, because I think you have to be brave to be anything in the arts. You'll know this as well. It's not an easy road. You have to have some self-belief. We were talking about doubts earlier. There are days when you do doubt yourself, of course, but I think you have to be brave, and you have to, there's an expression that, I can't remember, it was Matisse or one of these guys saying that creativity takes courage. It's one of these quotes from these famous, artists. And I think it's a very good quote to land up on, because I do think creativity takes courage. And that means being brave at the same time to follow your convictions, to do something. Then I think that's, I would probably say that. Just if you believe in what you can do, what you want to do, and you're stubborn enough to stick to it and work hard, don't expect everything to fall on your lap, because it doesn't work like that. Be brave, go for it, and believe in yourself.
It's nice to know that your bravest moment was actually just to be brave enough to go out there and do your thing. That's a wonderful, wonderful piece of advice as well for those that are thinking about entering into the art world. So I would like to ask you, just on top of that question, what other top tips would you give to aspiring artists?
don't copy all the time other people's photographs. Don't copy from books. Don't copy, because you'll lose something in the process of just copying all the time. Now, I copy from my photographs, but I use my photographs because I've been to that place. I've taken a photograph of something. I've captured a moment. I've captured a feeling. I've been there. I've smelt it, felt it, type of thing. I use it. I call it from the field to the easel is my kind of motto. But I like to go to the field, and then I go and put that whatever I caught from the field, and I take it to my easel at the end. It's that journey from A to B, and I think it's so important for aspiring wildlife artists. And David Shepard was the guy that said to me right in the early days, Richard, if you're going to be a wildlife artist, he said, basically in the nicest possible, he said, get your backside out there and get out to Africa. He said, get out there and do it. And I did. And that's how I got out. That was a brave moment, because I said I went out there with no money at all. I don't know how I did it, but I managed to get myself to Africa. And I owe that first trip to being my first step into becoming a wildlife artist, not just opening a book and thinking, oh, that's a nice picture on page 8. Because the other thing, Kat, because I've said this before, I did an interview the other day for somebody, when you have an exhibition and you've got, say, 40, 50 pictures on the wall, and let's just go back to an elephant, let's just say a picture of an elephant, okay? And a client comes up to you and goes, oh, I'm really interested in that painting of that elephant you've done, okay? And they say, can you tell me something about it? And I say, yeah, I can actually. I said, that was in the Kruger National Park. I followed that elephant for 6 hours, or whatever it was. It was a hot day. It was 38 degrees. He was covering himself in dust, whatever it is to keep the sun away. I've got a story. I've got provenance about that picture. Imagine if that guy comes up to me and said, oh, Richard, could you tell me about that elephant? And I go, yeah, it was page 8 on the BBC Wildlife magazine. I copied it from page 8 of could you imagine? Their face would just go, oh, just drop. And I think, that's, people buy into you as well as your art. They want the story. They want to know where you got it from. Often people are buying this type of art have probably been to Africa themselves, so they know the places that you talk about. I know it's easy to say that. I know it's easy to say, oh, go out to Africa. I know it's expensive. Don't do it straight away. Work up to it. Certainly have it as a goal. Have it as something to aim for. I did my cats and dogs, did my cats and dogs to build up enough money just about to then go and do Africa, rather than just going straight in and doing Africa from page 8 of a magazine. That's what I'm trying to say, Kat. I hope that makes some sense.
It absolutely does. Okay, I'm going to give you one more final question before we do a little bit of a quick fire question round. Oh my God, I'm so excited about that. What advice would you give to the world right now in the middle of the pandemic? What would you love to say to the world? World.
Slow down. Just slow down. What are we all rushing for? What are we all rushing towards? What are we all so hungry for? Of course, it's money and success, and you know what? To get there, we trample on all the finer things in life. We've trampled on this dear old planet of ours. We're all issued a certain amount of time on this beautiful world. Don't race it. Don't rush it. Don't rush to the end. Enjoy the journey to the end. And it doesn't matter if you never quite make it. Get everything that you need that you thought you wanted to have, it doesn't matter. Just enjoy the process of living day to day. Go outside, look at the sky, look at the beauty around us. Yeah. And spring's coming in the UK. What's more exciting than seeing the world that we live in? All the colours, all the trees, all the flowers, everything, the warmth in the air. Such an exciting time. And we're coming out of this pandemic. It's been tough. It's been long. It's been hard. But it's happening, isn't it? We're getting there. Let's not rush out of it.
Do you know what's so perfect about what you've just said? Is you're about to do the quick fire question round.
Oh, great. How ironic is that?
I'm going to ask you to really rush into this next bit, which is your final moment on the brave moment. So are you ready, Richard Symonds?
Tentatively, yes.
Okay, here we go. Yes. And answer as quick as possible. Your favourite art medium?
Pencil.
Your hero?
David Shepard.
Best friend at school?
Peter Sparrow.
Favourite teacher?
Mr. Ward.
Favourite motivational song?
Something by Hans Zimmer. Gladiator music. Love it.
Epic fail?
Oh, an epic fail. Did you say the music's an epic fail?
No. Your epic fail.
Epic fail. Oh, my epic fail. Not becoming an airline pilot.
Your favourite piece of art you've ever done?
Tembo the elephant. Big life-size elephant.
If you could have any other talent, what would it be?
Just to play the guitar better.
Favourite trait in a human being?
Trait? Love, honesty, just niceness. Oh, I don't know. That's 3 things.
Worst trait in a human being?
Worst trait? Greed.
Favourite self-attribute?
Oh, flipping out. That's a hard one to answer. I don't think there's a great deal. Oh, God. Oh, charitable. I'm charitable.
Worst self-attribute?
Worst attribute?
I'm going to put indecisiveness.
Indecisiveness. That's exactly the right one.
Tea or coffee?
Thank you. Neither.
Ooh, what would you have instead?
Hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate. Weirdest animal you've ever painted or taken a photo of?
Weirdest? Oh my gosh. Well, I photographed a great white, but that's not weird. Oh my God. A tortoise.
Favourite country?
South Africa.
Who makes you laugh?
You.
I'll take that.
You do, Kat. You really make me laugh. You do.
What's your annoying habit?
Which one?
Pick one.
I'm a bit hyperactive.
Favourite animal?
I'm going to say 2. I'm sorry, I'm greedy. Elephant or tiger?
Brilliant. Favourite food?
Thai food.
Ooh, me too. Best piece of advice you ever received?
I've had so much, Kat. I can't even begin to tell you. Oh, believe in yourself, I think. Just believe in yourself. Believe in yourself.
What smell reminds you of home?
Right now, the dog. Well, this is a doggy home.
And I love that about you. Oh, well done. You've survived your first quick fire question round. So we'll be interested to see what happens next time you come on for an interview.
That was tough.
You did very well. I bet you're sweating now, though, aren't you?
I am actually sweating.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, Kat, pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
So lovely to hear your voice. I hope that, everything that you're working on now is keeping you nice and inspired and busy and ready for that time that we come out of lockdown. If people want to follow you, what are your social handles? Where can they find you online?
Right, I got Facebook, which is Richard Symonds Artist. I've got Instagram, which is, can you guess?
Richard Symonds Artist?
Correct, yes. And I've got Twitter, which is...
Richard Symonds Artist.
No, it's Rich Wild Art.
Oh.
I thought I'd be a rebel.
You are, I love it.
Yeah, Rich Wild Art. I think that's it, isn't it? Isn't that the one? I see only 3 I do, I think. I've got a website which is www. Can you fill in the next bit?
Richard Symonds Artist.
richardsymonsartist.co.uk.
You will and are an original, my friend.
And you need to spell Symonds correctly, which is Symonds. 9 different ways of spelling my name correctly. So there we go.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and just making me smile on an otherwise grey and miserable day. It's been such a pleasure.
Likewise, Kat. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Richard is one of the loveliest people you will ever meet on this planet. His generous heart has placed him in the company of some of the world's charitable game changers, including our mutual friend Jill Robinson, the founder of the Animals Asia Foundation. Richard goes out of his way to help others, putting the world first and himself second always. He likes to know the full story behind every animal he represents, and if that means travelling halfway around the world just so that he can see an elephant or tiger in their wild and natural habitat, so be it. Better to have connection with nature and the wild places than to copy other people's work. I love that Richard can tell those all-important stories around his work, and that time to him is taken slowly, with deep appreciation and great integrity. Not only does his life in nature shine through his art, but it is also a daily part of his life. Any chance to get outside into nature and witness the pure magic of the world, and Richard is there with kayak, plane or climbing gear, ready to climb a tree, swim with seals or fly over those clouds that brought him such joy as a child. He tells us to slow down and look at the stars, smell the flowers, and look into each other's eyes, be them human or our animal friends. Only then can we truly experience the profound connection with our planet. I love that he would rather paint a 15-foot elephant than waste time doing the same thing over and over again. He pushes himself to go further, to wade deeper, and to represent the planet with utmost authenticity and to the maximum of his abilities. Richard is not one to do things by halves, and he recognises that in order to stay ahead of the game, literally, he must continue to raise his personal bar. As a consequence, his reputation precedes him. People can trust in his work and know that if Richard is on board, the art will exceed all expectations. Richard is leaving a rich legacy in his wake, one that his family and himself can be proud of. He is living proof that if you put in the work and dedicate your life to fulfilling your creative dream, great things really do happen for you. And as long as you represent the world through your own lens, your own eyes, then other people can open theirs and see a beauty that they may have otherwise missed. For Richard, success isn't about the latest car, the best phone, or the hours in traffic jams on the way to a job that maybe you only do for the money. For him, success is being able to go and spend time with his family, learn something new on guitar, follow swans and kingfishers called Kevin, and donate his time and gift to making a difference in the world. By serving others, he serves himself the best of life, and that is a priceless and precious way to live. So if you are being called to the wild, get raw and authentic. Take the job that buys you your own equipment, crowdfund, save, and keep that vision of travel and wild journeys in your mind, and work hard to learn the basics of your craft by candlelight at the end of a night shift if necessary, and then find a way to get yourself out into the world and in front of those majestic animals you so want to capture in your art. Connection is far better than perfection when it comes to representing our planet. So take the pictures yourself. Look into the souls of those beautiful creatures as they kick up the dust in the desert, and put pencil to paper whilst you can still smell the fur. You have something unique to bring to the table. And what you see and feel will always be original if you allow your heart to enter your hand. As David Attenborough once said, an understanding of the natural world and what's in it is a source of not only a great curiosity, but great fulfillment. People must feel that the natural world is important and valuable and beautiful and wonderful and an amazement and a pleasure. So let's all do our best to serve nature with our unique gifts and leave instead a legacy of tremendously beautiful art and maybe, in the process, a little less greed. Next week on the show, we speak to session guitarist Steve Down. Steve has worked with everyone from Beverly Knight to Joss Stone and continues to rise in demand. He talks to us about life on the road, his daily practice, and how faith and philosophy on living the creative life has made him the person he is today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the show. If you have a spare moment now, please like, subscribe, and tell me your thoughts in a review on Apple Podcasts, which will really help other people like yourself to find the show. Of course, you can also share the show with your friends by following us at the Brave Moment Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, or on Twitter at Moment Brave, or just follow the Linktree on all of our social media platforms. It's been so wonderful to have you all here with me again. Please get in touch with your own stories, and remember, your brave moment starts now.